Hey, this is Brian from DisableMyCable.com, and today I'm doing an updated review of the Mohu Leaf flat indoor TV antenna. Now I'll be testing and reviewing the unamplified version of this antenna. And just so you know, this is not a paid advertising. I purchased the Mohu Leaf with my own money, and I've not been in communication with Mohu about this review. And that enables me to give you the most unbiased opinions in this review. Now, I've been a user of the Mohu Leaf ever since I started my blog back in 2010. I've been recommending it since then, and because in my testing, the Mohu Leaf got me the most channels out of all of the indoor antennas that I tested. And there have been several iterations of this antenna over the years. It started out as kind of a laminated paper antenna with a permanently attached cable. And then they changed to a plastic design with a removable cable. So it just had a coax connector at the end, which I actually really liked because this allowed me to attach any length cable that I wanted to. And it actually allowed me to also upgrade the cable to an RG6 cable instead of an RG59, which is what it came with. So I really liked this iteration of the Leaf. So I was actually kind of disappointed when the new Leaf came out with a permanently attached cable. Hopefully, yeah, you can see it better here. And so you cannot remove this, and it looks like it's a pretty thin cable. It's probably not an RG6 by any means. And so I was pretty disappointed in this. So, but the real test is how many channels does it bring in? So that's what I'm going to talk about today. Did this change cause a decrease in the quality of the reception? So a few cosmetic issues first. The previous Leaf was white on one side and black on the other. This has gotten quite faded and started turning yellow, but it was white. The new Leaf is gray on both sides. And what they say is that, yeah, this is a paintable material. So they just say, well, you should just paint it to match the color of your wall. So let's talk about how I tested the Mohu Leaf. I used a Tableau Gen 4 as my tuner. And I taped my Mohu Leaf to my window and tested it by running 4 channel scans. Then I removed this antenna and replaced it with the new Mohu Leaf in the exact same position, with the tape in the exact same position. And I ran 5 channel scans with this. Then I took this off again, and just to make sure nothing had changed and no like atmospheric effects had affected my testing, I went back to the old Leaf and ran 2 more channel scans. And so after I averaged all of those channel scans, my results were the old Leaf picked up an average of 146.5 channels. That's an average number. And the new Leaf picked up 151.4 channels on average. So 146 for the old and 151 for the new. So just based on the raw number of channels that they were able to pick up, the new one was slightly better. Now let's talk about the quality of those channels, because a lot of times these extra channels are like foreign language channels that you don't care about. So what if this brought in like more channels that you did, shopping channels or whatever that you don't need? Well, the interesting thing and the surprising thing about the new Mohu Leaf is that it actually did a better job of bringing in some of the network channels that I have trouble bringing in this position. The old Mohu Leaf had trouble in that position bringing in some of my networks, like ABC especially, and some of my local channels. The new Mohu Leaf was not able to consistently pick them up, but it got them on some of my scans. So it's not just that it picked up the more garbage channels, it actually picked up the main network channels better than the old Mohu Leaf. So that was a real surprise to me, given that the new Mohu Leaf has this kind of weak looking permanently attached cable that I didn't like. In spite of this cable, it actually picked up more channels and better channels than the old Mohu Leaf. So how could that be? How could an antenna with a worse cable pick up more channels than another one with a better cable? And by the way, I was using an RG6 coax cable with this antenna, not the one that came with it. So this should have been better. Now the answer, I think, is in the internal structure of the antennas. In the new Mohu Leaf, they have changed the shape of the antenna elements. And I noticed this when I put this against the window and noticed that the antenna was slightly translucent, so I could actually see through and see the shape of the elements. And so they've radically changed the shape of the antenna elements versus the old Leaf, which I was able to see the antenna elements when I destroyed a previous version of this, an older version of the Leaf. I actually destroyed it and took it apart to see what it looked like. And so the shape of the antenna elements inside this plastic is different, or at least between this and the older one that I destroyed. So they have been optimizing the antenna elements over the years. And so I looked for some evidence of that change, and right here on the box, it says smaller and more powerful than the first generation. And it is indeed a bit smaller than the previous version. You can see right here. So it's a little bit less wide and slightly shorter. So it's a little bit smaller. But more importantly, they say they've changed the antenna design since the first generation. So I think that explains why the reception is better. They've just optimized the antenna elements better, which is great that they're continually doing research in this area and optimizing their product. So to sum up, I am still a big fan of the Mohu Leaf. I was very surprised that the new Leaf with permanently attached antenna got more channels more reliably than the old one, which had already beaten a lot of the other, well, almost all the other indoor antennas that I tried, and some outdoor antennas as well that I used indoors. Now, having said that, speaking of outdoor antennas, you'll always get the most channels if you use an outdoor antenna. So if that is possible, then there's really no substitute for putting an antenna on your roof or in your attic when it's really high up and has fewer walls to go through. So if that is possible, you'll get the most channels that way and you'll have the most solid signal. But a lot of people can't do that, like if you're renting or whatever, or if you just don't want to. And if you're like me, I live in Los Angeles, I can pick up all the channels I want with this indoor antenna if I just put it in the right position. So overall, I would still recommend the Mohu Leaf antenna if you're looking for an indoor antenna. Now, if you have the old Leaf and you're getting all the channels that you want, fine, then I would just stay with the old Leaf. No need to buy anything new if this is doing the job for you. If you have some borderline flaky channels and that you really want to get, it might be worth trying out the new Leaf. Like I said, for me, it got me slightly more channels, which might be just enough to push you over the edge to get those flaky channels that don't come in right. This antenna might get those channels solidly for you. I would just be prepared to return this if it doesn't do the job for you, so you can get it and try it out. So anyways, that's my review of the new Mohu Leaf. Let me know what you think in the comments, and if you have any questions that I didn't answer in this video, please leave a comment as well. I'll try to answer those. And check out my blog, disablemycable.com, for more detailed information on the Mohu Leaf. Thanks a lot.